The worst day of my life was when I had to drop my mother off at a federal penitentiary to start a 12-year sentence for something she didn't do. So it was myself, my brother, and my cousin in the car, and we had to drive from Detroit to Kentucky, which was a 6-hour drive, to drop her off to begin her sentence. Now, if you're new here and you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm on part 11 of this series that I so lovingly called From the Trap House to Hollywood. And it kind of journeys my life as someone who grew up in Detroit and who had to deal with the traumas of addiction, incarceration, navigating what felt like a double life for me, living this life in Detroit with everything that was happening with my family, and then also navigating my life in Hollywood as a songwriter and then a celebrity fashion stylist. So it's definitely a lot going on. If you are just now coming into the series, you might want to just go from one and catch up because you won't know where you are. But even if you're just starting now, still going to be good. The drive to the prison started at about 1 a.m. in the morning because my mom had to turn herself in at 8 a.m. So we wanted to make sure we wasn't late. Even though it was a 6-hour drive, we left Detroit at 1 a.m. We're driving down the highway and the spirits are, they're not completely somber. Obviously, they weren't normal because we knew what was ahead of us, but we were just trying to make it as light as possible. Once we got there, this is how it's set up. You have to drive onto the campus. Now, if you guys don't know about federal penitentiary, if you've ever heard anybody call it Camp Fed, that's because quite literally it feels more like a college campus, a rundown college campus. It's not a nice college campus by any means, but there's not a lot of gates or bars or any of that kind of stuff. Which, sidebar, I just want to say, throughout this whole process, it was very interesting to me that if someone committed a crime or was being convicted of a crime having to deal with money, they got the craziest, longest sentences ever, 10 plus years. Meanwhile, if someone committed an unaliving of someone, they could literally be in and out in 4. We pull up to the door. My mother has to get out of the car. We all get out of the car. We all do our hugs and, our goodbye kisses and all of that. And at this point, everybody's really strong. No one's crying. We just, we've had quite a while to deal with the reality of the fact that there was nothing we could do to stop this and that she was going to have to spend 12 years in prison. So she walked in. Now this part is heartbreaking. This part is heartbreaking. We're all sitting in the car, my brother, my cousin, and I, and my mom is walking up into the door. And we all know that once she enters this door, we will not see her free again for at least 12 years. So we're just all standing there. And I think for all of us in that moment, just the air left our lungs. We were standing, we were watching, we were not feeling. I think we were all frozen. We knew what was happening, but it just felt like an outer body experience. So as she walks very slowly to the door, she turns around before she opens the door to walk in and give us this little wave goodbye. And I don't wish that on my worst enemy. So now we have to drive 6 hours back in the car from Kentucky to Detroit after watching my mom walk into penitentiary to serve a 12-year prison sentence for something she did not do. I will never, ever stop saying that. And just to sum up the whole she didn't do anything, she owned a company. Now, this is important for anyone who owns a company. If you own a company and a crime happens at your company, whether you knew about it or not, you can be found guilty and convicted. And that is unfortunately what happened with my mom. There's a much bigger story, so please go back and watch the other parts so you can really understand what I'm talking about. But y'all, this little car ride back, all you heard was, I don't even think the radio was on. All you heard was dead silence and a bunch of, just a bunch of sniffles from me and 2 grown men. We were just sniffling the whole way home until at one point I'm like, listen, it was like 3 hours in at this point. I'm like, listen, we can't. We got 12 years to go, buddy. We got to pull it together. So then we started playing music and, just really just rallying together and talking about a lot of the good memories we had. I mean, obviously this wasn't a death, but it just felt, I'm going to tell you how I felt. For me, it was especially difficult because I would have done quite literally anything to have been able to do that time for my mom. And I don't know how I thought that that was even a possibility, but I was praying every day, like, God, please take it from her and put it on me because I can handle it. I honestly didn't think speaking about the prison drop off would be this difficult, but somebody said you need a cocktail to watch this series, and yes, you do, and I do too. Going to prison is hard. Having to watch a family member do time for something is hard. Whether they are guilty or not, it's hard either way. But I think for me, what made it even more difficult was I had already watched my mom overcome drug addiction, completely turn her life around, start a business, become very successful. Through her success, take care of any and everybody she could, which was a lot of people. Hire everybody from our old neighborhood to make sure everyone had a job, even if they were qualified or not. She just did so much for so many people. My whole family is just a very giving family. So to watch her go through all of that, overcome, make it to the level she had made it, finally get to the point where she can relax because she's like, okay, I've done a lot. I've gotten my family here. We can now relax and we can now just coast and enjoy what we've built. And for that moment to be the moment when everything goes crashing down and she ends up in jail, I am a firm believer of, okay, listen, don't question what the Lord has in store. God doesn't make mistakes. But this was really difficult for me to reconcile in my mind. Why would someone who is such a good person, who's doing all the right things, have to deal, like, why is she getting dealt this hand? And I also carried a lot of guilt because I could not stop this from happening. Now, that might sound like delusions of grandeur. I understand how that may sound, but, honestly, I felt like I had so many connections to a lot of people, but my connections were in the entertainment industry. And I just felt, why is it that I can call anybody and get anybody on the phone at any time, including Reverend Al Sharpton, but there's nothing I can do to keep my mother from going to prison? I still carry that. My mom was so strong throughout this process and wanted to continue to fight for her innocence. So in the next couple of years, my mental health took a complete nosedive because what we would do was she would type up her appeal and everything she needed to add to it. She'd study laws. She'd go to the law library. She'd get all the information she needed. Did I say type? She would write it all out and send it to me, and I would type it all up for her. So now I'm on autopilot because that's the only way I can push through. I'm a solution-based person, and I also just didn't have the bandwidth to process any emotional feelings around my mom going to prison and having to navigate both worlds between my Detroit life and my Hollywood life. I just didn't have the bandwidth to navigate the emotional side, so I had to go straight into solution mode. After the 6-hour drive of dropping my mom off to serve 12 years in a federal prison in Kentucky, I had to go from Detroit straight to the airport to fly back to LA, get to LA, and jump right on in headfirst to styling celebrities and living my Hollywood life. And for the next couple of years, I quite literally felt like I was living a double life because I'd be on set and my phone would ring and it'd be the federal prison calling, and I'd have to step off set, go out, spend the time on the phone with my mother, which we were allocated to about, I think it maybe was 15 minutes. I couldn't interrupt the 15 minutes, so I had to make up a reason to step off set for 15 minutes to take the call from my mom who was in prison. And I was on autopilot for as long as I could until it all came crashing down.